Hi there, this is Roubina, artist, healer and spiritual guide, for your second video in the series of how to heal from past wounds. If you haven't watched the first one, please do so before watching this section, because you will understand better where I'm coming from and you will have the basis for this beautiful journey that I'm trying to help you to make. So I mentioned in the first video that our tools will be within us, so we will go through the dimension of the body, the heart and the mind and the spirit. In this video it will mainly be focused on the heart aspect, although we will touch some other bits as well. So regarding this heart aspect, I'd like to give you an image, right? If you've got a child, or you know a child who you like very much, and this child has fallen down. Let's say they were on their bike and they fell down and they hurt themselves quite badly. What would you do? Okay, you'd probably help them, right? But what would you feel? Certainly you'll feel some form of compassion for them. Certainly, maybe you might get angry after them afterwards. If it's your own child, you might say, well, you know, I told you, be careful. But anyway, but first of all, you'll feel some form of compassion. So regarding our own woundedness, whether they are wounds that we are aware of, from childhood or whenever, or whether they are wounds that we suspect they're there but we don't really know if they're there or not, I encourage you to look at this part of you, this part which is wounded, with the same eyes that you're looking at this child. So the eyes of compassion. The eyes of compassion means that this part of us which is wounded, first of all, we need to let ourselves know that this part of us which is wounded is one part of us. It's not the whole of us. Depending on your journey, depending if you're a very emotional person or not, you might apply some of the things I say in one way or in a different way. So I'll try to give a general outline and you pick and choose whatever concerns you. If you're a very emotional person, then you more so need that compassion. And if you are somebody who doesn't feel your emotions, which can happen, and that happens a lot when I guide people in their journey, there are people who tell me, well, I know I'm sad, but I can't feel it. I know I'm wounded from all my relationships, but I can't really feel the anger. So I will give you the main aspect regarding that. The main thing is to allow ourselves to feel whatever the woundedness is bringing us. And how do we do that? We lie down many times in the day, or just not necessarily lie down, but we stop whatever we're doing and say, how do I feel now? Okay, I feel this, I feel that. And as time goes, you'll start feeling things which probably are linked with your past woundedness. If you're somebody who doesn't really feel emotions, then the very, very first step before trying anything else is to connect as much as possible within the day how you feel in your body, okay? I feel a pain, or I feel headache, or I feel a pinching. How do I feel in my heart? This is the heart space, not the chakra, the heart. Just the heart space, which is linked with other spaces, but it's also linked with our emotions, right? Past emotions, present, and even future, but that's a different matter. To connect to this heart space, how do I feel, okay? Many times a day. And for those of you who feel your emotions a lot, then I invite you to, whenever you're feeling the emotion, to release it. So if you're feeling regarding a wound from the past, and if you've identified what it is, then I don't mean you go and reassess everything and do your head in about what has happened, but just come back to what it makes you feel. Because when you are very emotional, you might start going rambling on and see why, how, what did I do, why didn't I do this, and what I could have done. So the main thing is to not get into that, but just to lie down as much as possible and tell your part of self which is suffering, I'm listening to you. How do you feel? And emotions are like layers of an onion. So you might feel like regarding a very same situation, one day you feel sadness, the next day or 2 months or 2 years later you feel anger, which is normal because most emotions which we feel like today even, they are linked with emotions which is from the past, because as we live, we go through the past and we are also in the present, right? So the past is linked with the present. And so the emotions that we feel today will be linked with emotions that we felt maybe as a child, or even in utero, in our mother's womb, or maybe even what our grandparents felt. So it's normal to feel sometimes that, okay, now I feel sadness. And what do I do when I feel this emotion? So the first part is allowing yourself to recognize that the part of you is suffering. So this is the very first big step. The second big step is to release that emotion. I gave the example of the child who fell on the bike. If the child is crying, you won't tell them the first thing, don't cry. Okay, maybe it has happened to some of us, but if you're watching me, that means you've got some awareness of things, or you're trying to build some awareness. So I'm sure that if we present that situation to you today, you would say, okay, you won't tell the child to start straight away, stop crying. Maybe you'll tell them later, but to start with, you won't tell them. You will just like understand that they cry. And what would you do once you've understood that they cry? You would take them in your arms maybe, or talk to them. And what are you doing when you're doing that? You're listening. So this is also how we go about healing the wounds, is we accept to feel the wound, we accept to release it, and releasing it is by crying, is by shouting, is by writing, is by doing anything that when you just do it as a child, don't ask yourself too many questions. How do I release my anger? No, as a child, how do I release my anger? If I start feeling it in my heart, if I start feeling it in my body. And it doesn't matter if it comes from a past relationship, the woundedness from this, or from childhood. We don't necessarily have to know precisely where it comes from, but we do need to let it out of the body. So feeling, letting it out, means crying. If we need to cry, it's okay. Especially if you're somebody who doesn't like to cry, and you feel suddenly, as you connect to your heart space, I feel so much sadness, put some soppy music on or watch a sad film and let yourself cry. So feeling, expressing the emotion, and then, as we said for the child, we'll take them in our arms. And for us, it's the same thing. If you're trying to heal ourselves, we acknowledge the emotion, we release the emotion, and we have to sort of fill in the gaps. And the gap is usually a sort of emptiness. When we felt sad or anger and we released it, there is a form of emptiness. So how do we take ourselves in our arms? Can be physically, by touching. It might sound stupid or simple, but I can assure you I wouldn't have found touch in my life, my own touch, I wouldn't be there making those videos with you. And so many people that I guide, starting to know that by touching, of course, it's a compassionate touch. It's not like, okay, I have to touch my body. It's a compassionate touch. And as you've released your emotion and you've given some sort of holding in your arms, then you're nourishing that, you're acknowledging and nourishing that part of you which is empty. And you can breathe in and breathe out and give a sensation of warmth if you feel that there is too much sadness within you, a sensation of peace if you feel there's too much anger within you. So you can do the touch, but you can also imagine, like, if you've got some already a spiritual path, or you like to think of, I don't know, as if the sky or the sun is warming you up, or if you like to think of God as something that accompanies you, then I invite you to do this part of compassion by writing with, as if it's the hand of whatever, the sun, of your angels, of God, which is writing to you. And if this doesn't speak to you, maybe you can just imagine that it's this part of you which is bright, because there's a part of us which is suffering, but this is one part of us. Even if it feels like it's the everything, it is just one part of us. There is another part of us which knows that there is hope. Otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video, would you? Which knows that it is possible to come out from all this suffering. So this part of you can write, and can write what you would like to hear, to say, okay, I am there for you, I understand you, and I give you so much love, so much, whatever you want. So it's up to you how you write this compassion side, but only after you have released the emotions that have bothered you, only after you have, if you do write the negative, inverted commas, yeah, those emotions which you feel, anger, whatever, or even jealousy or hatred, those ones, when you write them, you need to write them like with the most exaggerated anger or hatred, so without sort of controlling it. So this part, we write it as if we're lashing everything out. We don't send it to anybody, right? And the other side is we're writing to us to give a little bit of safety and protection. This is my point, is protection. So I spoke in the first video about the notebook, so this is something you can do in your notebook. One side is to write about if you need to lash out your anger, pain, whatever, and the other side is how I comfort myself. And let me tell you though that it's not because you've done it once that it's done, because sometimes an emotion which we thought has been dealt with isn't totally dealt with. So sometimes it can come back 2 months or 2 years later. So just bear in mind that a profound healing journey does take time, but just as people say, time heals, but time is there with us, of course, but time is time. Time without the use of the time is not going to heal us. So we need to help time. And time will help us in return. Just like if you do prayers, for instance, yes, of course, prayers help us, but we need to help ourselves for the prayers to help us, right? So anyway, there will be the next section as to how to further this healing journey. So do subscribe to the channel just yet if you haven't done so, and specifically click the notification bell, and also like this video, please. And if you've got questions about what I've just said, or you want clarity, do write a comment. But if you need further guidance, which is specific for you, then do take an appointment with me. I put the link in the description box. Bye bye, and thank you.